Rachel, as many have pointed out, Smith was certainly not the first openly gay person to win an Oscar, and he had misquoted Ian McKellen, who was referring specifically to the Best Actor category. What did you think when you heard Sam Smith say that?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you probably, if you're going to reference something in a speech, you should take 3 minutes and Google it before you say it when you've got a huge,
check on your phone
exactly.
on the way in the car.
I mean, I think, but I also think, I mean, Sam Smith has now, maybe this is just him trying to cover for himself, has said that the performance he gave just before he accepted the award, he hated his performance. He felt he sounded terrible. So perhaps he was flustered. He's someone who gets up on stage and sings, but he's not someone who gets up on stage and is a public speaker. He's a singer. He's not a gay activist. That's not his role. And I also think that there is, I mean, to the point that I was making about, Chris Rock earlier and having to represent everybody. We're at a funny time where we have shortened our political discourse to these like tweets and to these very small sound bites, and yet we demand full nuance and context and intersectionality in every one of those small. So you can't possibly take in the fullness of LGBTQ representation in film in a minute-long speech. So I feel like maybe we should just give Sam Smith a break.
Again, the question of obligation comes out. What's his obligation to know the full history of the LGBT community in relationship to the Oscars? Is that fair?
Well, look, we live in an outrage economy, and that's part of the way this works. And I think, to me, part of the problem here is like this progress, just like, actually just daily life in a multicultural, more connected world is one in which people make a lot of mistakes and a lot of uncomfortable things happen. And you can either respond to those with exclusion, or you can try and tolerate them and bring them along. And I think, we have to arrive at a point of compassion. I mean, with Sam Smith, it's pretty, like, there is a group in the world called idiots, and there's a group in the world called gay people, and sometimes they overlap. Right? Like sometimes there are gay people who say dumb things. Like that happens. And this was one of those cases. Yeah. I don't think it amounts to more than that, just because it's, he knew it was stupid while he was saying it. Like, he was like, I haven't looked this up, but I'm going to recite this fact. Right. But that it's probably isn't true.
But it's like, come on, like, can you feel the love tonight? Like Elton John, your countryman, I mean, that song blew my mind.
Right.
Like, I think, but we got to go easy on folk, right? He's a 23-year-old young musician. I'm not saying, that has a thing. Like, it's just that we got to give some love to the guy. And just, educate him. We don't have to go after him so hard.
Well, and, we had talked, a few weeks back, we had talked about Macklemore here, and Shad, you had made the point that when there are lots of people for whom, like, this might be the first person they ever hear talking about white privilege, and I think the same with Sam Smith. You might sort of, if you are sort of a longtime member of the LGBT community and you understand all the issues, maybe you sort of turn up your nose. But if you're some kid somewhere and this is the first time you've heard somebody famous use that term, openly gay man, on a stage at the Oscars, that means something.
I agree.
Yeah,
totally.
And just historically, but it still comes back to, like, guys, as we're moving through these moments of identifying our groups and stuff, we're still human beings. Number one, it seems like the humanity's getting lost, and we need to look at who has paved ways before us. And it's for the fact that you can actually be on that stage and speak in the way that you do. So our freedoms should not be taken for granted.
That's true. I mean, if I were Ian McKellen, I would be annoyed.
Right.
I for sure. I mean, like, he had to endure a lot more than Sam Smith.
But you can hope that, afterwards that it can be like one hopes that Sam Smith or anybody else doesn't get frozen in that one moment. So yes, you're right. Like, it was a dumb, sort of not great speech, and let's hope that Sam Smith can now learn from it and acknowledge who came before him and give him more than the minute to be defined by.
Yeah,